Hey everybody, welcome to a Holy Rust Revival. Today we've got a little bit different project on hand. Normally, I drag home rusty stuff like this, have to work through all the rust, but I've got a project today that we're going to work on that's not quite as rusty. As a matter of fact, it's beautiful, and I'm a little scared to touch it, but you know what? This is a very special project, and the reason it's special is that it belongs to my nephew, Tristan Smith. He and his father, Jonathan, have been working on this Farmall Cub since Christmas. And to give you a little backstory, someone heard that Tristan loved tractors. And by the way, Uncle Rob loves tractors, so I love that Tristan loves tractors. But anyway, this generous gentleman gave John and Tristan this Farmall Cub. And since Christmas, about 6 months ago, they've been working, restoring this Farmall Cub in their garage. So they've done a just wonderful job painting, restoring, making it look nice. And they've brought it home to Mississippi for Uncle Rob to get it to run. And that's my job. They've made it look pretty, and it's Uncle Job's job to make it run. So Tristan, I want you to enjoy this video so that we can capture everything it takes to get this Farmall Cub running. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you know that anytime Tristan wants to ride his tractor, it will be here, and it is exclusively his tractor to run. I want everybody in my family and whoever's watching to understand that this is Tristan's tractor. And we're going to get this thing fired up, hopefully. I have no idea what's going to happen when we start looking at the engine. I don't know if it has good compression. I don't know if it has good oil pressure. I don't know any history other than it looks pretty. Let me spin around here just a little bit. Look at that beauty right there. All right, so Tristan, enjoy this video. Again, I'm proud that you love tractors, and let's get a little greasy and a little dirty getting this Farmall Cub ready to work. All right, buddy, I love you. Let's do a little walk around. All right, so here's the beautiful Farmall Cub that they've been working on. I want to say this is a late 40s, early 50s model. Most of those tractors came with a mesh screen in the front. The later models had a kind of a bar grill in the front, and this is the original style grill, even though my brother put a new grill on it. But look, it's got lights. The rubber is in great shape. The hood painted up well. They've put brand new stickers on it. Has a new carburetor. They took the exhaust manifolds off, put new muffler on. It actually has all of the toolbars that come with it. They're stacked over in an opposite shed, but everything to make this tractor work is there. We've just got to get her to run. Now, I don't know anything about it, but what I have been looking at a little bit is that this tractor originally came with a magneto on it. However, somebody has put a coil on there, so I'm thinking somewhere inside of this, somebody has bypassed the magneto part of it and used just the points in there to ignite a coil. That's a lot we've got to go through to figure out how to make that work. You'll also notice it doesn't have a starter on it. I recently took it and had it rebuilt front to back and had a new push button on it, so it should be ready to go on. That'll be one of the first things that we do is put the starter on. Wiring has got to be done, but John and Tristan did a good job of running the wiring in a loom. And look at here, they even put new gauges on it, brand new gauges. Like I said, I have never worked on a tractor in this good a shape to start with. Now, here's something interesting I need to show you. I don't know that I've ever seen a Farmall Cub with a 3-point hitch on it, but this one has a 3-point hitch. Can you believe that? Somebody worked very hard to fabricate a good bit of stuff here and weld up these brackets and put a seat on top of it, and it's just pretty amazing. They whoever did it did a relatively good job. See the bracket that they hung the 3-point hitch arms off of. And you can see the bearing that is actually fastened to that piece of metal. None of this has destroyed the integrity of the original tractor. All of this stuff can bolt off and the original stuff can go back on from what I have noticed. So kudos to whoever did this. There had to be a lot of creativity to make that happen. You can see that the gear is still on there for the planter, but they did a wonderful job setting all this up. There's still a gear here, or the pulley rather, for a belly mower, but not too shabby. I wouldn't want to put much of anything heavy behind this, but a little small implement, maybe a little carry-all back here to carry equipment and tools and stuff like that on would be fine. But all in all, it's a very nice tractor. Look at the detail of the wheel weights that they painted and fixed up. Got the little black inserts, and the wheels are the original color. So Tristan and John, y'all did a fantastic job restoring this tractor. Let's just cross our fingers that the motor is good. It'd be a shame though to make this tractor this pretty and the motor not be in decent shape. But you know what? That's where Uncle Rob comes in. Uncle Rob's gonna get a hold of this. So Tristan, I hope you enjoy this video. This is dedicated to you. And here we go. Let's get after it. Okay, Tristan, let me bring you up to speed on what Uncle Rob has done so far. As you remember from the previous little segment, the starter was missing, and I had to find 2 bolts that matched the thread pattern in the bell housing, and I ran a tap in there and chased those threads out so that we can make sure that the bolts worked correctly. And look, it's okay because Uncle Rob has probably got multiple tractors of bolts right over there. So it doesn't matter what's missing on this tractor. We're gonna be all right. So let me tell you something else I decided. On my tractor, Tristan, you know I've got one just like yours. I opted to remove the old apparatus. This is like a little push button switch that makes the starter come on, and I had a stud inserted and I had a relay mounted so that I could push a button and it cranked the tractor. But you know, Uncle Rob's a little bit lazy, so what we have decided to do is to keep your tractor as original as possible. And what I mean by that, how you crank this tractor is you actually pull this lever right here, and you can see that when I pull that lever, or that arm rather, it is pulling this long lever, and it is coming down and pushing that button right there. So let's get in a little bit better close-up of what happens when I pull that arm. You see what's happening? So when I hook the battery and everything up, that is actually going to make the tractor spin and turn over by making an electrical connection inside of this little box right here. So it's going to connect the positive battery cable, and of course the ground is run through the frame of the tractor. And when that connection is made, the tractor's going to, it's going to turn over and hopefully crank. So the next thing I'm going to need to do is check out the battery cables and start hooking battery cables up. And then we're going to check out the cylinders and make sure we're okay and check compression. Because we got to have at least 2 or 3 things to make a tractor run. We got to have compression, we've got to have fuel, and we got to have spark. We got to have those 3 things in order for this tractor to run. So the first thing we're going to work on after getting the starter is to make sure we've got one of those, which is compression. And I'll show you how we do that in just a minute. Okay, Tristan, Uncle Rob has hooked battery cables up. This one is simply going from the ground down to the frame, and it's connected underneath. This one is coming around, going all the way through, coming underneath the hydraulic box and going all the way to the starter. Now, remember I told you when we pull this lever, the tractor should turn over. And sometimes, well, anytime you know a tractor that's been sitting up a long time, it's not good to just throw a battery in it and hit the starter. However, I do know some things. I know that my brother John put mystery oil in the cylinders. I do know that the engine will turn over by hand and there are no obstructions. So what we're about to do is we're about to pull that little lever right there, yank on it, and see if the tractor will actually turn over with this starter that has been rebuilt. Cross your fingers, Tristan. Are you ready to hear this thing turn over for the very first time in I don't know how many years it has not run? But here you go, buddy. Let's try it. Okay, got my finger in. Let's pull the lever. And by the way, always check that your tractor is out of gear, because this is pretty dangerous standing beside a tractor and pulling on a lever for the first time. You just want to make sure it's out of gear. Normally you'll be sitting on a tractor, but in this case we're working on it. Okay, here we go. Hey! Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Good job. She turns over for the very first time. Let's do that again and let's listen for some things. I want to listen for compression, because that's the very next thing we're going to do is run a compression check on this. But you can listen to an engine and hear some things. So let's listen carefully again. It is spinning freely. I do hear some bump, 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 bump. And that's a sign that there is compression. So let's do that again one more time and listen. Do you hear that little bumping sound? Okay, so that's a positive sign, but I want to put a gauge on it for sure, and let's make sure that we've got compression on this engine before we fire it off. Okay, Tristan, we're about to run a compression test on this engine. I have removed spark plug number 4, and I've got my compression gauge hooked to it. So what will happen is we'll spin the engine over and crank on it a little bit, and we're going to see how much compression this cylinder number 4 has in it. So on this gauge, we should be running somewhere between 90 and 120 for this engine to be able to run. And we're going to have to perform this test on all 4 cylinders. So what Uncle Rob is going to do now is pull this lever. We're going to crank on the engine, and let's watch this gauge and see if it goes between 90 and 120. Here we go. So it's okay. This tractor will run if it's above 90. Now, would we prefer it be 120? Yes. All this means is this tractor has been used, which, you know, what, 70-year-old tractor? We should expect a little bit less on compression. Look, before we get too excited, let's check the other 4 cylinders and see if they are equal. They need to be somewhat balanced in order for the tractor to run smoothly. So let me pull the next spark plug, and I'm going to switch the gauge over and see what we have. All right, compression check, cylinder number 3. Let's give it a shot. Hey, that one might even be a little bit higher. But still, right at 100 PSI, above 90, she's going to run. All right, let's do cylinder number 2. By the way, before we start cylinder number 2, I just heard that Tristan made the principal's list in his school with all A's. So, buddy, hey, Uncle Rob is proud of you. Keep up the good work and study hard, man. All right, compression check, cylinder number 2. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, all right, cylinder number 2 is a little bit weaker than some of the others, but you know what? It's still 90. That means it'll run. So don't lose heart yet. Engine is good. 3 out of 4 so far. We just know that cylinder number 2 is a little weak, but that's okay. That's all right. Let's check cylinder number 1. Okay, here we go. Cylinder number 1. Now, our evaluation so far, we got 2 strong cylinders in the back. Cylinder number 2 is a little weak. Let's see what cylinder number 1 is going to show us in 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. I think that's the best one so far. That one's almost hitting 120. So, what does that tell us, Tristan? That tells us that this engine is going to run. We've got one of the three components, and to be honest with you, well, those three components being compression, fire, and fuel, okay? This is the one I was most worried about, because if we did not have good compression, that would require us to rebuild this engine, tear it apart all the way down, put new rings, maybe pistons in it, hone it out. But I am proud that this engine has at least 90 psi compression on every cylinder, and number one has got almost 120. So it's pretty even. So it should be a smooth running engine if we get the other two components squared away. All right, so let's zip this compression part of the video up and start working on fire. That's what we're going to work on next. We're going to work on our distributor, magneto. There's been a lot of monkeying going on over there, so Uncle Rob's fixing to dive in and see what's going on. All right, buddy, be back in a minute. Tristan, let me give you a little update. Uncle Rob's been working about, I don't know, 45 minutes. I've exposed all of our wires and trying to figure out where things are going to and coming from. And I've had to take the console loose so that I could get to the light switch box and figure out where wires are going. And at some point, a switch was put in, and that's not original. However, whoever put this coil in and bypassed the magneto had to run that switch. So we got a little hodgepodge going on here, but I assure you Uncle Rob is going to get to the bottom of it. He's got his handy dandy trusty notebook or manual here. Every time I go to Tractor Supply, I think, man, I need a manual for my Farmall Cub, and I forget that I bought one the last time I went to Tractor Supply. So I must have about, I think I counted 5 of these in the filing cabinet. So if somebody needs a shop manual for a Farmall Cub, you just give old Uncle Rob a holler and I can hook you up really, really good. So what I'm doing now is I'm just chasing things down. I think I need to go to the switch with a hot wire directly from the battery. So I'm going to do that first. And what we're going to do is we're going to keep things simple just to fire the engine off. Then I'm going to come back and hook up the gauges, lights, all that kind of good stuff. So, but for right now, we're just going to get the tractor running. We're going to hear it purr, then we're going to go from there. So let me clean some more of this mess up and I'll return back to you, buddy. Okay, Tristan, here's a little wiring update. I know this looks bad. Oh, it looks like a rat has gotten in here and just had a heyday. However, there is a little rhyme to this reasoning here. So let me tell you the components of what we got. This is the switch key, okay? This is the light switch. This is the original light switch that goes in the tractor. So in an effort to get this thing running for the first time, I'm eliminating a lot of the wiring and only using the basics of what we need to make this thing run, okay? So let me explain our wiring. So this is our battery cable. So the 12 volts is connecting right here. So this wire right here is going to come on down and it's going to the battery side of the switch. Now I've also jumpered off of that a hot wire that's going to the light switch so that when we get ready to hook up lights, all of this will be energized. The other side of the switch, the ignition part of the switch, is going to the coil. Now the coil, when it's energized, is actually adding the electricity or the 12 volts needed to go to the points inside the distributor. And when the points open and close, it energizes and de-energizes the coil, which creates very high voltage to go to the spark plug. And that high voltage comes out of here, goes into the distributor cap, and then goes out to the different plug wires in the spark plugs in order to give us the fire we need to ignite the fuel. So remember, we check the compression Now we're going to check to make sure that we have fire on the spark plug. And I hope that I've done all this wiring correctly. What I'm going to do is pull one of these spark plugs and we're going to hold it against the ground and see if there's a spark come out. All right, so let me cut the camera and I'm going to come back with the spark plug out and we're going to turn the engine over and see if we have a spark. Okay, buddy, be back in a second. Okay, bud, this may be a little bit hard to see, but look right down in there. And when I turn the engine over, it's going to be a little loud, so be careful. Watch your ears. But let's see if we have spark on the spark plug. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, Tristan, we have spark on our spark plugs, which means we've got 2 of the components of what we need to get this engine running. We've got compression and we've got fire. So the next thing I've got to do is to make sure these plug wires are on in the right way. And as you can see here, there is a firing order on the side of this engine block, which means the firing order goes from 1, 3, is it 1? Let me see. Yes. 1, 3, 4, then 2. And this distributor determines when those sparks get to the right place. And I have pulled this cap off. I've looked inside the distributor. It turns clockwise, okay? And the number 1 wire is on the bottom. So 1 goes, okay, this is the number 1 wire. It goes there. And if it's turning clockwise, this wire right here should be on number 3. And it is. The one on the top is number 4. Let's make sure it's going where it needs to go. Yes, it goes in this one right here. And the one on this side should go to number 2. So let's see that it does. Yes, it does. Okay, look, buddy. What I'm going to do is cut the camera off and I'm going to put this spark plug back in the hole, and then we're going to see if this baby will fire up. Okay, I'm going to spray some starting fluid inside that carburetor right there, and we're going to hit it and see if our timing is correct and see if it fires off. Are you excited? Yes, sir, I am. I cannot wait to hear this tractor run for the first time in I don't know how many years. Be back in a minute, buddy. Okay, Tristan, we're going to fire this baby off for the very first time. I've got our 12 volts going to the coil. I've got our battery hooked up. I got our wiring. Even though it's a mess, our wiring is here. All right. We've got compression in the engine. We've got sparkulators going to the spark plugs. We got fire. We're fixing to bring on the fire. How about that? So what I'm going to do, got a little starting fluid, because we don't actually have our fuel tank up here yet. But I'm going to spray a little starting fluid in this carburetor, and this is going to be the 3rd component we need to make this engine run. So I'm going to spray a little in, and then I'm going to hit this button. Get ready, buddy. Will it run? Will it run? Let's check it. Woo! Hey, how about that? I mean, she runs good. I mean, fired off beautifully. Let's do that again. You got to do it again. You can't hear it just one time. All right, here we go. Boy, that just makes you smile, doesn't it? Now, you see all that smoke? That smoke that we had put in the cylinders to actually coat the cylinders down with oil to make sure that everything was loose. So it's going to take a little while for that to burn off. But man, she runs beautifully. I think Tristan's tractor is going to be a runner. Okay. Well, buddy, I tell you what, Uncle Rob is going to do some cleaning up on this wiring. And then we're going to get a gas tank on, and then we're going to see if it'll run and go in gear and pull out of the shop. How about that? That's our next step. Well, Tristan, I had every intention of getting the tractor completely running tonight and putting it in gear and moving it, but guess what? We have a power outage here in East Central Mississippi, and I'm showing that about 5,000 customers are without electricity. So this video is getting a little long, so I'm going to stop it right here, buddy. And we're going to come back later, put the gas tank on, put it in gear, put a plow on it, and actually turn some dirt. How does that sound? But I think this was my sign that tonight we need to just cut it off right here. Look, everybody, thanks for watching. And Tristan, I hope you enjoyed the beginning of this video series on the little Farmall Cub, and I hope you enjoy your tractor. And please come very soon so that you and Uncle Rob can ride your tractor and have a great old time on it. Okay, buddy? All right, I love you, man, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody, for watching.